Okay, picking this up right where I left off last time. Let's give us a save file in case the back-to-back recordings don't work so good.
Bring me to my men.
Okay, so we are able to get to Grunberg this turn, which is awesome. Cities will have a garrison in them. In this case, it's just a couple of swordsmen and spearmen.
Summon the Elector Counts.
Since we took on the conscripts, our army isn't that beat up at all. So even with the reinforcements, we should be doing fine
Into battle.
for taking these guys on. So let's go. So unfortunately, it looks like there's going to be some trees in front of us here, which is not so great, seeing as how we have ranged firepower and they don't. So I'm probably going to want to set up here, let them come to me, get shot up, and just charge them in the rear with our cavalry once they're engaged. This will be a super easy one, but we'll try to minimize casualties as we have a lot of secessionists to beat up, and we don't want our army taking casualties when we don't need it. So yeah, there's all those trees which they'd be able to advance through without. Oh, okay, huh. So I was expecting all of them to come from this direction, and I would just shoot them through this open expanse here, which might not have worked out that good with this hill here. So, but yeah, they've got some the reinforcements coming in from this side here, and they're going to be walking in from the edge of the map into this huge open area. So before they can even form up, we're just going to park our guys right here and blast the crap out of them. And hopefully be able to just nuke everybody down before they can do anything to stop me. So yeah, let's get that taken care of.
Weapons at the ready. For Heldenhammer. Glory to the Empire. I will not stand idle. Battle and blood awaits. The Empire endures.
We don't need to risk our cavalry against spearmen like that.
We are Sigmar's heirs.
Yeah, that guy's dead. Those swordsmen are Dunskies. Those guys probably aren't even going to get into melee.
What do you bid?
Nice.
Quick march. Moving now.
Yeah. Okay, and that little skull above them means that they've been shattered as opposed to just eroded, so they're going to completely run off. There is no coming back for them. Since they don't have any ranged options, we're going to set up our ranged guys in front of our melee support units. So as they come over this hill, I don't know if it'll be a enfilade or defilade. As they come up here, they'll be perfectly outlined against the sky, within range of our guns and crossbows. They will just get horrifically popped. Hide our horses in the trees, and get Karl Franz to stand in this dip in front of our ranged units. Let's speed this up a bit while we're waiting for everybody to get into position. Slow cavalry. Okay, our horses do not seem to be able to run fast enough to actually hide from these guys, so they can just lead them into our trap. Yeah, so we'll note here that the spearmen up on their armor, 30 armor, not much. But the swordsmen do have shields, which will block
For the
some missile fire.
Emperor!
Which is why I try to get my
Missiles
crossbowmen
at the ready!
to shoot at spearmen when they have the opportunity, as they take a hell of a lot more damage, as they're not catching any of it on their shields.
Reichsguard Knights!
So yes, just chase the pretty ponies around as you get shot. Very good, very good. Bip, bip, bip.
Taking position! War!
Okay, now I'm gonna pause this to reorientate things. And we'll want you guys up behind so you can charge down that hill into their rears.
Crossbowman!
It's gonna attack there. Those are swordsmen. Those guys should be in range. You guys can attack them. And this is an area buff that does leadership and melee attack. We'll wait until more of our guys are
State troops ready!
in it before we pop that.
Prepare for combat!
Try to break those guys up first. And you guys can shoot at them. It should be enough of an arc that we're not going to shoot our own guys in the back. Let's pop this. And yeah, the Reichsguard absolutely flattened them. Those spearmen are getting horrifically wrecked. Takes the Reichsguard a bit of time to move, but then they can charge back down the hill. Halberdiers are going to get a bit beat up, but their job is just to hold for a little bit, while the Reichsguard charge just crushes all of them. Get them back up the hill just enough to repeat as necessary. Boom. That was pretty textbook. We'll end the battle before our handgunners shoot too many of our own guys by accident. Well, that one was a settlement fight. If you win, the settlement garrison just gets completely eliminated, so there's no point in trying to run those guys down. You might get some experience for your individual units for doing it, but I don't feel like wasting the time on that. So yeah, that was pretty textbook. I think we might have even taken fewer casualties in that one than the first fight. I had tons of kills on our handgunners and our crossbowmen. Yeah, maybe that doesn't update properly until we get to this screen. So a lot of those numbers just changed. But yeah, 230 value there, 300 there, 370 there, 230 there. Yeah, not bad at all. Yeah, so different options for what to do with the place. You can actually completely destroy the town, so it would have to be re-upgraded from scratch. You can sack it, which leaves you without control of it, but you get all sorts of money. Loot it and occupy it, which gives you control of it and a bit of money. I find unless you have an army that is spec'd for it, that you tend to have to spend more to repair the place after you've damaged it than you would get from it. Or you can just peacefully occupy it, which is what I'm going to do since this is like basically our backyard. We want these places to be good since we're going to hold them for hopefully the entire campaign. And we got some retinue guys. Normally travels alone. else would cook so or loot the freshly slain wound recovery time. Okay.
Sources report that Middenheim is sending help to the secessionists in an effort to destabilize the Empire, intercept their reinforcements, and demonstrate to Todbringer that there is but one master of Reikland.
Yeah, so I think Todbringer was the guy who lost
Your
the...
burgeoning realm grows, Your Eminence, yet many evils still abound in this world. The Empire remains divided, and marauding greenskins still threaten your lands. Further afield, there are rumors of a dark force rising in the east, spreading the taint of undeath. You must remain vigilant.
Basically, our neighbors want to eat us and or do terrible, terrible things to our bodies. Yeah, and this is a special campaign mission here that's still kind of tutorialized. We're in Todbringer, who I believe is the guy who lost the Emperor election to us. Is stirring up some trouble, and we'll have to go set him straight. It's Todbringer, the bringer of Tods. I'm sure he has a magnificent mustache, but I can't remember. And those that would break away from the rule of the Emperor are nothing but tenacious. They have sent a request for assistance to their allies in the north, and this appeal has been answered with covert detachments of men. Our spies have revealed the massing of a military force in the Bloodpine Woods. Take the fight to them before they can grow into an army. And they will have a leader, much like Karl Franz, a couple of spearmen, a couple of swordsmen, some crossbows, and a bunch of artillery. Yeah, that's the guy that we killed down here. And we picked up some items and some followers. Magic resistance. And this is another mod that I put in that gives us some more lore information as we travel along. Because while this game is great at explaining stuff, the Warhammer setting is just a very nice setting with all sorts of information in it. So, the Commanders of the Empire, of which Karl is one, because he's the big leader. But this would be more for guys like the one that we just beat, a generic leader of men. The armies of the Empire are led by warriors who have been trained to direct their forces as effortlessly as a swordsman wields a blade. First and foremost among these great leaders are the Elector Counts. Karl is an Elector Count. Inspirational and famous individuals whose mere presence can steady a wavering battle line. The knowledge that their count is personally fighting beside them is enough to embolden the courage of a province's soldiers and strengthen their resolve. In practice, however, it is unfeasible for Elector Counts to command every force that must be dispatched. For the Empire is a dangerous land, and its territories are forever under attack from savage monsters and marauding armies. Often, command is delegated to a trusted soldier considered to be an honorable leader of men, and this officer will lead the province's forces when the count cannot. However, there are always exceptions, and some of the more bellicose counts, such as Valmir von Raukov of Ostland, have an unhealthy love for the clash of swords and thunder of cannons, thus taking to the field of battle whenever they can. Many of the men appointed by an Elector Count to lead an army will also be nobles of the Empire, educated in martial pursuits from an early age, falconry, swordsmanship, and hunting beastmen in the forests. Others have risen through the ranks, having first stood amongst the rank and file with bloody halberd in their hands. These officers vary greatly in standing, depending on the size of the force they lead, and can be known as captains, marshals, generals, or simply commanders. Regardless of their station, the vast majority will be tried and tested veterans of many years, who have a fine understanding of the craft of soldiering, having spent most of their lives fighting in defense of the Empire. The commanders of the Empire differ greatly in skill and bravery. The Elector Count of Midland, Boris Todbringer, the Bringer of Tods, for example, is a ferocious commander, and though his boldness and skill at arms is beyond doubt, his impetuous battle plans are sometimes costly. On the other hand, there are commanders such as Baron Kurt von Steinberg of Stirland, who has famously never won a single duel in his life, but who possess one of the shrewdest and tactical minds in the Empire. There are also, unfortunately, a small minority of Empire commanders who are little more than effete fops. They tend to be petty aristocrats who owe their rank more to ancestral titles and politicking at court than to any actual experience of leading men on the field of war. Damn, reading is hard. But yes, it would seem that Boris is a bit of a badass, so hopefully Carl will be able to win any duel that we might have to have with him in that fight. And now we have another tutorial mission, essentially just grow your empire. The election of a new emperor has oft led to turmoil as the machinations of the elector counts play out. But as the nobles conduct their petty power struggles, the nation fractures. It is up to the newly elected sovereign to begin the process of reunification. Bringing an entire province under his rule must be a priority. Yeah, so a province would be like Reikland. The capital is Altdorf, which is a big city where you can build a lot of stuff. And then there's all of these smaller towns where you can't build quite as much, and the main cities can't get quite as big. This would go up to 5 levels as opposed to 3. But speaking of which, we have just captured
I command here.
Grunberg. Grunberg, nice little town. So for growing our cities, every time you max out this here, you get another population surplus. You need to spend population surplus to upgrade the cities in total. Haha. So the little cities can only get this big. Big cities can get all of the stuff up here. Some cities have unique building chains, such as Altdorf is on the coast, so it can have a port. I think this one is unique in that like the capital building chain itself is special, and some of them will have individual resources. Like this has a clay pit that'll give you some tradable resources and some more income. Whereas Grunberg has grazing pastures. There are farms that are little more than tiny, muddy fields on which graze scrawny goats and cattle with shriveled udders. Wow, you're really selling me on this, guys. But basically, it gives a ton of growth that will allow you to build up the whole province faster, which is what we're going to be focusing on. And then as it gets better and better, cavalry coming from this area will be more awesome. So since this has grazing pastures in it, I'm going to recruit cavalry from this province. Annoyingly enough, the highest tier cavalry cannot be built in Little Grunberg as it's too small. Like, it goes up to a 4th level building chain, which Grunberg cannot support. So I think I would have to build that chain in Altdorf itself. I'm pretty sure that these bonuses from the cattle will apply to everything in the province, not just everything in this little town. And we'll just try it and see, essentially. But before we end turn, we will want to level up Carl again. So right now he's on foot because he's super low level. But as soon as we are able to, we're going to want to put him on a horse, as just the drastic increase in movement speed is a huge boon. It's difficult to duel people if you're running around on foot in full plate trying to get a hold of them. So we're going to pop him on a horse, and then he can get variously more badass horses, such as a horse with better armor is nice. A Pegasus, so a flying horse, will make him really, really able to pick and choose his duels. Or he can ride a griffin, so like a half lion, half eagle, just monster of a mount. Apparently, it's his own griffin called Deathclaw, and they've known each other for years. A horse and his boy. It's very cute. But before we get there, there is this skill down here, Lightning Strike, that enables you to attack an army without allowing the bad guys to reinforce it, which is kind of necessary to have in some situations. So I tend to just rush towards it to make sure that I've got it with most people, just on the off chance that they ever need it. Because if you need it and don't have it, it might just mean that the whole army gets wiped out. So, yeah, nice to have. And with the extra skill points in this mod, it's not that much of an imposition to get. So we can choose between some public order, which will make our cities less likely to rebel and more productive. Leader of Renown, which will reduce recruitment cost, which I might actually go for since I'm going to be recruiting all campaign with this guy. Reassuring Presence reduces attrition. I just, like if you're traveling through a desert or through like a haunted vampire area, your units will take damage. I generally try to avoid putting myself in situations where this would be relevant. Or Fervent, which there's a competing religions mechanic like some of the other ones had. I'm probably going to go with this as it's generally quite difficult to get access to things that help with this, and I gotta pick one of these, and none of them are all that exciting. So yeah, through our acts, the gods will cleanse the lands. Good, because when they're not cleansed, all sorts of bad things tend to happen. Yes. And he got himself a obsidian lodestone, which gives him magic resistance. So if things do magical stuff to him, he will be more resistant to it, which is nice. And apparently the retinue follower we picked up is not someone he can use. Okay, so let's get ourselves some more soldiery. So swordsman and spearman. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two of them, but we can compare them on this screen here. The health totals will be a little bit off because they are injured, but they both have 30 armor, and they've both got very little charge bonus, so there's not a whole lot of point in running them into people. The spearmen have a lot less melee attack, so they're not going to be as good at killing the enemy. The spearmen also lack shields, and they have identical leadership and speed. And they have identical defense, so they will hold about as well as each other. But the big difference is that even though they have more or less the same weapon strength, so each swing doing about as much damage as each other, the spearmen have something called a bonus versus large, which is actually quite big. And basically it means that they're better at stabbing large targets, anything horse-sized and up. So against cavalry, the spearmen are about twice as effective. They also have a charge defense against large foes, so if they're sitting there braced with their spears, If cavalry run into the front of them, they don't get to do bonus damage. So, like, spearmen versus horses is a flat-out win. However, the swordsmen are better at getting shot since they've got the spear, or since they've got the shields, and they're better at actually just killing man-sized targets. Although, come to think of it, their melee attack is so much better than the spearmen that I think it's just additive, the bonus versus large, so they will get to add 15 to their attack, which pretty much just brings them on par with the swordsman. Although they also get to add that bonus to their weapon strength, which close to doubles it. So, yeah, it's still better to have those guys against horsemen. But I've already got the halberdiers, which are quite good against horses as well. So let's get some more armor. And these guys are just a neat little piece. They're wielding a sword in one hand and a pistol in the other. And they're a little bit faster than baseline footmen. So what they'll be able to do is fire their pistols one-handed, run away from people, and since they can shoot while they're moving, and presumably reload while they are running around and carrying a sword in the other hand with a muzzle-loading pistol, don't ask how that works. But they can just run away from guys and consistently shoot them with their pistols. It's neat to take one or two of these guys, as they can often be very good at just peeling off. Like a couple of units will derp around trying to chase them down and getting consistently shot, and your army can deal with the rest of the forces. And then we have some research to do. It's a whole huge research tree here. You can up your infantry, up your cavalry, artillery, missile units, trade. Imperial colleges would be... okay, just both of these are kind of economic. And then you can just pay money to have better diplomacy, or worse diplomacy, and better combat stats, depending on who you're dealing with. But I'm going to pop right into trade immediately, as tithe rebates makes just governing and growing a lot easier. A rebate is a useful tool when things are good to ensure compliance during the inevitable hard times just around the corner. Yeah, there will be hard times, I'm sure. Okay. I think that is about all we can do with this turn. So we will check out diplomacy before we end the turn. So yeah, all of these lands and marks and burgs are the other little provinces of the human empire. And eventually we're going to try to fold all or most of those into the empire proper. As they're basically all kind of like Quebec. They don't really want to be a part of the whole, except the whole system is set up that each of these provinces is supposed to be like Quebec, instead of that one being more of an outlier. Although it's these guys over here who actually sound a bit more like the Quebecois. And actually, we are on quite good terms with these guys, and I'm pretty sure that the Emperor and the King are friends. So right off the bat, we have a non-aggression pact, which gives like huge diplomatic penalties if you attempt to start a war with each other, since you guys are nominally allies. And we're right next to each other, so we can in fact trade. Actually, I don't think we are next to each other, but we have a port, so we have sea access.
Do you wish the lady's favor?
Oh, we always wish the ladies favor. Mine friend. So trade agreement, get a little bit more money coming in. Military access would be nice, just as we can randomly tromp through their territories if we ever want to.
Short-sighted.
Well, screw you then. How about just the trade agreement? What? Okay, fine. We'll do the military access first, since apparently you don't like
A
money.
wise move.
Sure. Sweet mustache. Very curly. And we're also on good terms with these guys.
The Tsarina empowers me to offer you warm greetings this chilly eve.
Russians. And of course, beautiful beard. Beautiful mustache. Shiny dome egg of a head. Yeah, these guys want trade. These guys want trade so much that I'm going to make them pay me for the opportunity. Nice. Yeah, then when we check out our earnings, we've got a modest amount built in through trade. So that's research, that's diplomacy. Oh gosh, then there is a whole, like, trying to bring the empire together system, which I don't quite understand and I'm not going to go into right now. We want to get this fealty thing up to 10 for each of them. These guys start out very low at 2.
Who calls?
Those guys are 3.
Sigma's will.
Those guys aren't even, like, properly, like, even nominally part of the empire anymore.
What? The Empire.
There's that awesome voice again. But yeah, he's up to 7 and has like a unique lord, so I definitely want to get these guys brought in. As if you fully ally and annex these guys, you get to play with him, kind of as though you started the campaign with him. So that's pretty cool.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
What?
These guys are also no longer part of the Empire, because they're all friggin' vampires. Yay. Alright, and with that, we will end our first turn. This used to take forever, but there was an update relatively recently, which has changed this to be so fast. And now they want us to establish a trade agreement with Nordland. Theoderic Gaussier, Elector Count of Nordland, requests aid. His lands are experiencing increased coastal raids from Norska, and he needs allies to help repel the attackers. He's got Viking problems. And we've recruited some swordsmen. Swordsmen are expert fencers and blade masters, regarded as dashing, heroic figures. This reputation, whilst somewhat exaggerated by the bards and poets of the Empire, has its foundation in truth, for swordsmen are amongst the most highly trained and proficient of these state regiments. So those were the swordsmen we recruited, and then the Free Company militia are those guys with the swords and pistols, and even bigger, floppier feathered hats. So whilst state troops form the mainstay of the Empire's military forces, its armies are often bulked out by ad hoc regiments of militia who are recruited, willingly or not, to fight as and when required. No one can foretell how many will turn up at the muster, or what their fighting quality will be. After all, these irregular troops receive no formal training or discipline, except training in how to reload a muzzle-loading pistol while both your hands are busy at a full sprint. Many militias are formed from townsfolk and villagers levied from the local countryside. Brave men, standing ready to defend their homes and families against the monsters and beasts that occasionally threaten them. Other militias are bands of mercenaries, bandits, or other curs used to living by the strength of their sword arm, hired or pressed into service. Militia fighters tend to wear their own tatty clothing, which may sometimes have a vague resemblance to a uniform and often incorporates elements of their own state's colors. These warriors are armed only with their own personal assortment of weapons, be it bows, swords, cudgels, or particularly in the more rural provinces, farming tools. I don't think that's actually represented on the models, but like that would be super cool if it was. There is a constant stream of adventurers, pirates, and brigands returning to the Empire from such lawless places as the Border Princes, and these are a plentiful source of irregular troops for an Elector Count. Battles in far-off lands have forged these men into hardened warriors, but they are uncouth, disreputable sorts, liable to cause trouble in taverns when they are not roaming around in dangerous bands. Highwaymen. Elector Counts regularly and wisely seek to recruit such bands for two reasons. The first is that they represent a ready source of brave and reckless troops. The other reason is to bring these headstrong fighters under some sort of control, and thus prevent brigandage and rebellion. Brigandage, nice word. The polite and diplomatic term for such irregular troops is free companies, but the professional, disciplined state soldiers of the Empire simply refer to them as what they are: scum. Free companies are paid after the battle from a mixture of the spoils of war and the Elector Count's own war chest. Some unscrupulous generals are known to throw free company regiments into the thickest fighting, knowing that dead mercenaries do not require payment. Yeah, unfortunately, I think if the unit exists after the battle, I still need to pay them their full wages, which kind of sucks. Can't actually use that as a strategy. Yeah, yeah. So basically, we have Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and the fourth highwayman, whose name I'm not sure I've ever actually known, running around shooting people in our army, and it's great. Although I'm sure none of them have a beard quite as awesome as Christopherson does. Okay, so to figure out our next moves, I think I'm going to leave that to the next video. Since they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10 units to our 10, but there are reinforcements expected. So I think I want at least one more turn of recruitment before I attempt to take that on. So yeah, we will leave it there for now.